Do we all owe Jeff Nippard an apology?
Sure. By the way, I do have the receipts of me telling Jeff in advance that this was happening before he wrote that comment. I have it both in audio and a screen recording. And so if Jeff, for example, says he didn't know, he knew.
Now, it really says something about people's character when you look at the whole situation with Hussein Farhat and Greg Doucette, and the only person to really apologize in the last few days was Jeff Nippard. He made a post on his Instagram after Greg Doucette made the comment. It blew up. Everyone started like catching on that Hussein had done like a 16-month cycle or whatever. You know, we'll save that for another video. I think I've already posted it by now. But yeah, Jeff Nippard came out and basically said, look, I'm incredibly disappointed. I'll take the L on this. I was basically just going off of what I know, and I thought that he could be natural by the studies and the knowledge that I have. And so he basically kind of backed Hussein in that sense. Shitty of backed Hussein in that sense. We'll get onto that in a bit. But, you know, he did at least apologize for this, and he said, going forward, I'm going to be using less examples, and let me just get the correct wording. Just so I don't misquote him, he says that going forward, I'm going to focus on presenting science without using specific examples, because of course, there's a lot of room for error in that sense. Julian Fitzgerald, who also Jeff stood up for recently, could come out as fake natural soon, and then everyone goes crazy. And of course, Jeff Nippard's going to receive some sort of friggin' kickback from that as well.
Here's what I think. Sometimes, when you combine world-class genetics with super hard training, you really can get to a level of muscular development that some people simply aren't going to believe is possible naturally, no matter what you say.
I'm in the gym all the time. It's like somebody's like basically saying, nah, you didn't put in the work, you just stuck a needle in your arm. But
right.
I'm like afraid of needles. I hate needles like so much.
But if I could ask you to stick around to the end of this video, because I do actually want to hear your opinion on this. First of all, though, I want to give the actual fors for why we should most likely forgive Jeff Nippard, and also the against for why we shouldn't. Now, first of all, I can't help but have some sort of sympathy for Jeff Nippard, because literally Hussein Farhat and Greg Doucette have completely just thrown him under the bus, and they haven't apologized. Hussein Farhat said this in a video recently.
And now I guess we're seeing like people's true faces. I guess everybody's coming out now and they're against me. Some people, for example, Jeff, I totally get how it could affect his reputation. He was, defending me in the comments in that video that he made. And I just want to say, honestly, without Greg making that comment, I feel like the video would have made a lot more sense, because it just goes through like everything. And at the end, after watching, you're like, all right, that makes sense. They're just trolling or they're just kidding. Like, what the is a polymorphism.
And he even doubled down on it on a recent post that he made on Instagram, basically acknowledging that yes, he can see that this would ruin the reputation of someone like Jeff Nippard, but then never apologizes or never really addresses it. He kind of dismisses it and goes on to something else. So imagine you're Jeff Nippard in this situation thinking, yeah, I genuinely think Hussein could be natural. I'm going to make these videos just to show what the science is behind it and whatnot. And then he gets double crossed. It just shows the character of someone like Hussein. But at the end of the day, I have sympathy for Jeff Nippard in that sense. However, I kind of don't when it comes to his videos that he made recently on both Hussein Farhat and Julian Fitzgerald, basically saying how you can look enhanced and naturally or whatever the video was, as well as him doubling down on the situation when he made that follow-up video. Because bro, Jeff Nippard's not an idiot. Like when you think of stupid people in the industry or even just meatheads or whatever, like I'm sure there'll be some that come to mind when I say those words, but Jeff Nippard's not going to be one of them. He's basically like at the pinnacle, at the Mount Olympus, if you will, of science-based lifters, up there with like, unfortunately, Dr. Mike. That guy gives some stupid advice. But then other guys potentially like TNF's working his way up and whatnot. But Jeff Nippard's been at that peak for a while. And so people look up to him. People who just start training will search up, the best exercises for their chest, the best exercises for tricep, whatever. And his videos are going to be like the most recommended, up there with maybe old Jeff Cavalier videos, or I know Scott Herman Fitness, or something like that, right? So he has a base of knowledge which spans from the gym bros and the bodybuilders to the CrossFitters potentially, to all the way just to the average gym goer. He's a smart guy. He's been doing this for over a decade, bodybuilding and training for like, I don't know, probably close to like 20 years at this point. I'm not sure. He's done multiple natural bodybuilding competitions and won his natural IFBB Pro card. No. It wasn't an IFBB Pro card, I don't think, but he won his natural pro card. And the reason I'm saying all of this is just to say that, look, he's not an idiot. He's a smart guy. He should know that when you look at Hussein Farhat and you see his broomstick training and you see the fact that he grew so frigging quickly that you'd have to say, look, like, yeah, mate, like maybe your physique would be natural if you trained for a lot longer, but definitely not in the way that you trained or the time that you trained for. He also made some dumb statements in that video in regards to like FFMI and stuff like that, saying that someone like Jack Dellinger from the 1949 Mr. America, I think it was, had a 28 FFMI, and although that was above the natural limit, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, someone like Liver King has a 29 FFMI, 80 years or so after the freaking Jack Dellinger had a 28, but that's way over the limit type thing. Like, it's questionable to me. And of course, there's statements that backed, it's common sense that there has to be the most jacked person in the world. There's someone who's the oldest, there's someone who's the tallest person, there's someone who's the shortest person, or whatever. There has to be someone who's the most jacked. And it's common sense. It could have been someone like Julian. Really? And of course, Hussein sort of falls somewhere in there and he kind of backs it. But, these are kind of stupid statements. Many people have criticized him for this stuff, though. I'll be honest, I'm not the only one. I'm not the first, and I won't be the last.
The fake natural epidemic is getting worse.
Never played a sport in his life and then just blew up like an IFBB pro. That's how that works.
So, in this video, I'm diving straight into the dumpster fire, and I'm taking 3 tools with me: history, science, and common sense. And using those 3 tools, I'm going to give my final answer to the question, how big can you get without steroids?
The other side is I think that Jeff Nippard was seriously trying to play devil's advocate in some way, because he's a numbers guy, a science-based guy, if you will. Of course, he's going to look at that backed by science. Let's actually just discard Julian Fitzgerald, because his whole backing and reasoning behind why he thought that he was natural was basically just backed on happened. Like it could be. Common sense shows that he could be the most jacked guy to ever exist naturally, whatever. Okay, so let's just dismiss Julian Fitzgerald. Let's talk about Hussein Farhat for a moment, because of course he does use science in some way. And I think that his genuine reasoning and purpose for making these videos was kind of to prove that you can get to this level naturally. Not everyone will, because it takes genetics, but some people will.
I can't say with 100% certainty that Hussein Farhat has never taken steroids. I can't say that, but I can say with 100% certainty that Hussein Farhat's physique is achievable without steroids. His blood work is normal, his FFMI is normal, and his transformation, while suspicious, is possible.
I don't think his intention was to be conniving or to get publicity or to, he didn't have ill intent when he came into these videos. I don't think anyway. I think, he definitely could have been a lot smarter with it. He definitely could have probably watched the video over a few times and maybe sent it to some people to get their opinion. But at the end of the day, I don't think he really wanted to trick people for the sake of getting more money.
Does anyone else feel bad for Jeff Nippard in this whole Hussein Farhat and Greg Doucette situation? Now, it seems like Jeff was trying to do the right thing in his recent videos with Hussein to show people what's achievable natural, and Jeff pretty much put Hussein Farhat on a pedestal just for him to get backstabbed, because whether you care or not, Jeff's credibility in business is going to be affected by this, because some people will only see the videos where Hussein was said to be a fake natural and not the second part of the video, and from Jeff's video alone, Hussein probably got more business on his own side, but Jeff put out this statement about the whole thing after he saw Hussein wasn't natural. Incredibly disappointing. I guess this is where you all can say I told you so. I'll go ahead and take my big fat L for defending Hussein. For what it's worth, I do think this is most likely just a very stupid publicity stunt by Greg to keep people talking about this, but it doesn't matter at this point, because now people like me who thought Hussein probably was natural will join the legion of doubters. I still think Hussein's physique is achievable naturally, even though he isn't, but no worries, I still hold my L. This stuff really annoys me because it just further feeds into the idea that everyone is a fake natty, which may be closer to the truth than I realized, and now I really regret including Hussein in my video. This stuff causes harm to real naturals who have actually earned an elite physique without gear. Apart from all the science I presented in this video about what's achievable but naturally still stands. Moving forward, if I ever come to this topic again, which probably I won't, I'm going to focus on presenting the science without using specific examples. Now, he still has this post up, and if I were Jeff, I would just leave this alone or just delete it and just not respond in any sort of way, because these two guys already got what they needed. This whole situation was just very scammy, and neither Greg or Hussein literally care. They just want more money in their pockets, and that's literally all they care about.
And it's mad because Charlie Caruso, of all people, made a video recently saying, should we have sympathy on Jeff Nippard? You know, do we forgive him for what he's done, right? And the comment section is actually not what you'd probably expect. You probably have people saying, yeah, you know, we should forgive him, whatever. But most people are kind of saying what I was saying earlier, saying that he should have been smarter, that he's not an idiot, for instance. Some people have the maddest, almost friggin' borderline conspiracy theories. Listen to this. I don't have sympathy for Jeff. After he tried to cover up for Hussein Farhat and for Greg and doubling down when called out, I think this whole stunt was actually to help Jeff after all the backlash more than promoting Hussein Farhat. Jeff probably complained to Greg, then Greg had the idea for this stunt. So basically back to zero and people will like Jeff and basically have sympathy for him. You're falling for it. Really? Unless someone said that it's a conspiracy theory, basically. Don't get me wrong, the whole thing with Hussein Farhat was planned by Greg and Hussein for sure, but I don't think this is like a double thing where friggin' Jeff has come to Greg and say, look bro, like I'm in a sticky situation here, like I need to sort this out.
Jeff Nippard knew Hussein was lying this whole time. Now, Greg Doucette actually reached out to me after a few videos were made about the whole situation, and he said that Jeff knew that this was all a hoax, and he actually has proof that Jeff knew.
Oh, by the way, I do have the receipts of me telling Jeff in advance that this was happening before he wrote that comment. I have it both in audio and a screen recording. And so if Jeff, for example, says he didn't know, he knew.
Now, does this mean that Greg was in the right to make this whole lie up? No, I still think the entire thing was done very wrong and scammy. And truthfully, I don't even know if I can believe Greg now, because as him and Hussein said, don't trust everything you hear on the internet. So I don't know if I'm going to trust this. And even though Jeff knew, I would still do the exact same thing that Jeff did, because once again, how would that make Jeff look if he knew this entire time that it was all a lie? And I still believe this will affect Nippard's business in a negative way to some degree. And Greg, you yourself said you should have not posted that comment on a video. So whether Jeff knew or not, you put a guy who seems to be backed by his own findings in a very awkward corner. I can't believe this is the most important thing going on in fitness right now.
Even like his apology post recently, how he was so quick to apologize for it, I think literally kind of shows that he wasn't paid off in any way. That he was basically saying, look, I will take the L for this. This is my reasoning for the videos. I'll take the L either way because I was played by these people. I don't think Jeff's particularly in the wrong here. He's been an idiot, but he's not in the wrong. That's my opinion. What do you think?